Namo Phat. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The third mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I vow to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I'm determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness of myself and others, I'm determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. We've been reading a book by the nuns of Amaravati called The Body, Dhamma Reflections on Aging, Illness, and Death. And we're still in a Dhamma talk by Ajahn Candasiri called Reflection on Well-Being. But sometimes it's not so easy, is it? These thoughts can really get under the skin and obsess the mind. It's at those times we need to bring out our toolkit. I often see the Buddhist teachings as a toolkit of techniques for dealing with particular difficulties. There's a very good toolkit for obsessive, unskillful thoughts of one kind or another. Of course, we have to recognize them as being unskillful. That's a very important first step. Sometimes people become quite overwhelmed when they start to notice these things. They say, "Oh, I thought I was such a nice person before I started to meditate, and now I see all these mean, nasty thoughts and unskillful habits." But you can't begin to cure any disease until you recognize that you have it. So when people come to me and say things like, "I didn't realize how awful I was," I say, well, really, it's a great blessing to realize how awful you are. Now you can begin to do something about it. It's a great, great blessing that at least these things are beginning to come out into the light, the dust, the cobwebs, all the unpleasant habits. So the first step is to recognize this without tumbling into further aversion, despair, and misery. To see the situation in a positive way. Okay, now let's see what we can do about it. To begin with, it's important to see that what we don't have to think these to begin with, it's important to see that we don't have to think these thoughts. We don't have to carry these things around. We can set them to one side. That's one skillful means, to realize that we have a choice. When the thought arises, we can put our attention somewhere else. Sometimes people say, "Well, isn't that repressing?" But is it? We've recognized the thought. We've acknowledged it. We've seen the harmfulness of it. Now it's time to just allow it to cease, to let it go, to turn our attention to the silence or to the body, to really feel the breath, the body breathing. These are things we can do, and even if we can only do them for a moment before the obsessive, mean, nasty thought comes back again, just that moment is a powerful piece of ammunition in diminishing the power of the obsessive thinking. It puts a real dent into the mean, vengeful storyline that we've got going. So we can just take a moment to enjoy the breath, to feel the body breathing, rather than allowing the obsession to completely fill our whole mind space. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu. 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 Thank you for joining me this morning.